Hello YouTube, it's Lion here with Hobbies of a Man once again, and today we are doing another manga video. Today we are going to compare Mexican manga, which is right here. Give me a second. These 5 Mexican volumes to this Japanese volume, which will also compare to all of these American volumes, just for the sake of completion. These 3, and then these 2, and these other 2, and then this big bastard right here, the Hellsing Deluxe Edition. So yeah, I do want to talk about Japanese manga sizing in general. There's kind of an interesting bit of stuff to talk about there, but I mean, it's really not that much. So let's get it over with quickly. This is a Japanese tankobon for shonen, a shonen jump title. This is a jump title, not a shonen jump title. Really makes no difference. They're the same exact size. So yeah. Now, tankobon is a term that initially referred to books that are single entities that do not exist in a broader sense beyond that single book. However, this is not really the case in terms of how it's used today. And in fact, the word tankobon now refers to graphic novels. However, my understanding is that Japanese children and teenagers and adults that like manga don't actually use the term tankobon, but rather just refer to these as comic books or comic buksu in whatever the romanized version of Japanese is. I think it's romanji. But yeah, so a tankobon comes in 2 sizes, and then there's one other size that is really important, and then there's a bunch of classifications for different types of things that all come in sizes like the 2 that I'm going to mention. So there's, or the 3 that I'm going to mention. So there's this tankobon size, and then there's one that's slightly bigger. Now this is a Japanese B6. Japanese B6 refers to the 6th cut of a B-size page, I think. And it's Japanese because Japanese people use slightly different sizes from other people, the same way that here in the US, an A4 piece of paper in the US is not going to be the same as an A4 piece of paper in France. Now, the other tankobon size that they use is ISO B6, which is internationally understood to be the standard B6 size, which is slightly wider, and they use that for seinen. And I'm assuming that this also applies to shoujo for these sizes, and josei for the slightly larger size. And then there's A5, and I think this is ISO A5, which is half of an A4 piece of paper, which is kind of similar to this signature size, so you guys can kind of understand what I'm talking about, which is kind of interesting. Now, beyond that, beyond just tankobon, there's a lot of different assortments of different classifications of manga. Obviously, tankobon is the standard initial release. Then there's kanzenban, which is a kind of complete edition. It refers to the manga reshuffled chapters-wise to include more chapters or less chapters in certain volumes, and also refers to the fact that most manga that has a kanzenban is going to be collected with all of the little perks and specialties that the series got given throughout its serialization. So it's going to have color pages, it's going to have red tinted pages, it's going to have some updated art and stuff like that. A good example of this in English that we have available easily is the new Shaman King volumes. However, those aren't like proper examples of kanzenban, because in the US they made them 3-in-1 omnibuses, and that's not really what they are in the Japanese sense. In fact, it's not really what they are in any of the countries that are releasing it. Like Mexico has it as a 2-in-1 with like a nicer polish to it, but I don't think they even released it in the right size. So there you go. It's kind of interesting. The other kind of big things that I've noticed are wide bands, which are just really fat versions of the book, and I think that actually refers to an omnibus. I'm not exactly sure. And then there's also Einzelbands, which are complete or collector's editions. And the most notable example that I can think of in the US would be the Gundam Origins manga collection. Those are completely copy pasted onto American friendly hardcovers from the Japanese Eisenbahn of the Gundam Origin manga. So that's pretty cool. That's kind of what the terminology means. It's not really that important, but I did want to talk about it. This is all based on research that I did. I don't necessarily know that it's accurate, so if I did say anything incorrectly, let me know down in the comments so I can correct it in my pinned comments. So here we go. These are tankobons. I'm going to talk about the manga by itself first, and then I'll compare them. So here we go. This is the Mexican manga. This is the standard Japanese style B6 size that Panini has. This is what they released most of their shonen titles as, or under, with this kind of like really small style. This is actually really old. This is from 2017, which is 4 years ago. So this doesn't have anything special. It doesn't have a dust jacket, and it doesn't have a bookmark, but it does have color pages, which is pretty cool. The Argentinian version and the Spaniard editions of these do have the cover, and they do have a bookmark, if I remember correctly. Here is Yagan. This is a single seinen title, or a single seinen volume, and this is in the ISO B6 size. As you guys can tell, slightly bigger than the Japanese B6. It's wider, slightly taller, and this is a wideband edition that was made into this ISO B6. It's exactly the same as Yagan, except that it's really thick. And there you go. Here are Godeth. This is by Kamite, and this is slightly larger than the Yu Yu Hakusho volume. I don't know if you guys can tell right there. Yep, slightly larger, slightly wider. And then this is the Yu Yu Hakusho Kanzenban edition. So there you go. This is how it compares to the Bestiaria's Shonen Jump style B6. Here it is to the Seinen B6. And here it is to the wideband. It's exactly the same as this one, though, so no worries. Now, the differences that most Americans will probably care about, because they don't really care about the sizes, is this. France, Mexico, Argentina, and Spain, as far as I can tell, provide extra little gifts to their buyers in their manga, usually in the form of bookmarks or little collectible items like trading cards. These also have had images added to the paper. This is not always the case in Japanese editions. And obviously these have dust jackets. Here's My Hero Academia. Doesn't have a bookmark, but it has this little strip of paper, and it has an image on the inside. Here is Kaiju number 8, which also has an image on the inside. However, those images on the inside are not necessarily always there, so don't get used to them. Kamite doesn't have any extras besides the dust jacket and the added image. Yu Yu Hakusho has this. Has color pages, has different types of color pages that, and like, also has these red tinted pages. He has a bookmark, he has a colored inner page, and then a really nice design on the cover, which is pretty cool. And yeah, so let's just compare them to American volumes. So to make it easier for me, I'm only gonna talk about 3 of these books, because all 5 of them would be kind of annoying. And I don't really want to keep messing around with my books and end up damaging them. So here we go. Yu Yu Hakusho, Yagan, and Bestiaries. The 3 kind of standard sizes of manga in Latin America, and specifically in Mexico. Compare them to the 2 standard sizes of manga that we have here in the US for tankobon editions. This is a 7 Seas tankobon, short. It's kind of stubby. And here is a Viz Media Tankobon, which is actually not from Viz Media. These are referred to as Tokyo Pop trim sizes. Tokyo Pop was the first one to come out with this size. Everyone else adopted it, and then Tokyo Pop kind of disappeared. So now Viz Media is the one that is known for these sizes. As you can tell, it's the same size as a Kodansha volume. And here is a yen press volume that is the same size as well. So there you go. Oh, and to compare it to Dark Horse, because Dark Horse is always weird. Dark Horse is slightly taller. Oops. Dark Horse is slightly taller than 7 Seas, but still shorter than the Tokyo Pop trim, which is annoying as hell. Oh, and then if we talk about vertical, they're just fucking weird as well. But I don't feel like pulling that out, so I'm not going to talk about it. So let's compare Bestiarius to these three. So here's Bestiarius compared to 7 Seas. Slightly shorter, slightly less wide as well. Here it is to Viz. Equally short and equally wide, or less wide, I guess. I think this is 1/2 inch on both sides, so that's kind of interesting. And then here it is compared to a Dark Horse. It's slightly less tall compared to the 7 Seas and slightly less wide. I think it's the same width as well. Then let's compare it to a Viz signature. This one is actually slightly shorter than other Viz signatures, but I mean, who cares, I guess. Here it is. It's very significantly shorter. Here is 7 Seas oversized volume. And here's a normal Viz Sig. This is equivalent to Kodansha oversized volumes and yen press volumes. And again, significantly undersized. Here is a Viz Big, just so you guys can tell. Again, significantly undersized. This is basically like half of a volume like that. And then here it is against the deluxe edition. It's not even in frame, but there you go. I think this one actually is half of this. Yeah, there you go. It's actually even less than half of it. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, there you go. That's the smallest manga size that you have available in Spanish. This is essentially a mass market paperback size. So there you go. Now let's look at Yagan. The ISO B6 for seinen titles. There you go. Okay, let's compare it to Dreaming Sun first, and then Dark Horse, and then Viz. Okay, so here you go. They're almost the same size. I think it's only slightly longer because of the cover that it has. Let's see. No, actually, it is slightly larger. Just in general, it's slightly longer. So there you go. Here's Dark Horse. Again, slightly longer. Here is Viz. Again, slightly longer. That's pretty interesting. I don't really know if it's really cool, but I think it's interesting to look at these things and just see how they would fit in your collection if you, for some reason, decided to get one of these. Here's a Viz Sig. Significantly smaller. Here's the oversized 7 Seas size. Oh, oops. Again, significantly smaller. Here's the slightly less wide 7 Seas size. Not 7 Seas. Sorry, Viz signature size. This is a copy of the Japanese Kanzenban of Monster. We have this exact same edition in Spanish as well, which is pretty cool. And then here's a Viz Big. Again, significantly smaller. And let's put it against the Big Honker right here. Again, tiny. And I think, yeah, this one is actually exactly half of the size. If I put in this one, yeah, there you go. They're the exact same size. So if this is B6, this is B5, I think, which is pretty cool. I think that's how it works. I'm not exactly sure. So there you go. We looked at the two smaller sizes. Let's look at the A5 size now. Let's compare it to 7 Seas standard size. Pretty small. Let's compare it to Gantz. There you go. Pretty small again. And then let's compare it to Tokyo Pop trim size. Again, pretty small. This is kind of like the difference proportional to what this has, I think. That's pretty cool. And I think this one should be, no, never mind. No, never mind. I don't know what's supposed to be half of this one. I think it would be like A6, which is really, really tiny. It's kind of like those little notebooks that you have, like pocket notebooks. Then let's compare it to this big. Pretty cool. It's only slightly shorter. I told you this is equivalent to an oversized Cadencia volume. Here it is against a oversized 7Cs volume. As you guys can see, it's slightly shorter. I think the difference in size is almost equivalent to the difference in size with Kamite's A5 version. We'll put these two against each other. Yeah, these are exactly the same size. You can't tell the difference, right? Exactly the same size. I think Kamite's is actually slightly taller, but I mean, that's not really that important. Here you go again, just so you guys can see the difference. This one is slightly taller again, but I think it's the paper of the dust jacket. Let's compare it to a Viz Sig. Again, slightly taller. The Mexican edition is slightly taller, but I think that that's because this A5 is based on American A4, which is not exactly the same. So there you go. Here it is against another Kanzenban edition. Again, it is slightly, but very minimally taller than this one. So there you go. That's all of the size comparisons between all of the manga. I think the most important aspect here would actually be that the Mexican manga have like cool little extras because they come with extra art and with extra pieces of paper and of course with the bookmark. Now I do want to talk about the Blade of the Immortal editions that I got because I wanted to compare them to the one I already had. So here we go. This is Blade of the Immortal Dark Horse edition. And here is Blade of the Immortal Panini Manga edition. Now obviously there's a big downgrade in size, but I am okay with that in order to deal with this. The fact that the art is flipped. I really disliked it. It made it very difficult to read. I think the story was already confusing enough as it was, but the art not flowing in the correct direction makes it even worse. So there you go. I also just like the spines better. I think it looks better in the Spanish edition or the Mexican edition over this one. Like this one's cool, but like, I don't know, I like it better in this edition. Also, the fact that the size is smaller is kind of a downgrade, but also kind of an upgrade because I can store this much easier than I can store this. This is a hulking beast. Also, this feels really good quality, very high quality without the weight issue that this has. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. I actually really like the weight of these. I feel that the cardstock on them is good enough to fit, which is very different from how I feel about the Viz Bigs. However, this is still a tiring book to read because it's kind of awkward. It's really large, and given that it's so heavy, it kind of gets you tired while you're reading. So, yeah, it's kind of a downgrade in terms of size, but in every other way, it's an upgrade for me, and so I just wanted to talk about that. I also just like this updated art. I think it's nicer than this one. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about manga and how it compares between the different countries. Let me show you kind of like the general sizes again, just for a little kind of picture here at the end. There you go. That's something kind of nice. Okay, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, see you guys later. Thank you.